Hello, Durud, and Shalom, everyone. I am officially starting my first live stream. I have no idea how many people are going to tune in, but I figured I would uh, practice a little bit, especially since there is a lot of interesting news coming out. And to help me on my first ever live, as you can tell, like I wasn't planning on doing a live stream. I was actually just like, in the studio, um, just playing around with StreamYard and practicing. But to help me get through my first live stream, I have the wonderful Armin here with me. Hi, Armin.
Hey, hello.
Thank you so much for joining. If you guys don't know Armin, he's of course the fantastic founder of Atheist Republic. He does shows both in Farsi and in English. Staunch supporter of Israel and of course of free Iran. And so we were he's helping me out because he suggested I should start doing live streams. So here I am,
Yes.
ignore everything. But Armin, there's some interesting developments that are happening, and I want to come on briefly and talk about it. And I'm glad you're here as well, so that I at least have someone to speak with. And for those watching, of course, you're welcome to put your comments in the chat, whether it's on YouTube or on X. We love your feedback as well. So something happened a couple of days ago, Armin. I'm sure you've spoken about it as well. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu came out with, I think, a very, very important, a very historic statement. Did you want to speak about
Yeah.
that a little bit while I find the link and pull it
Yeah.
up?
I think it was a genius plan because it isolated Hamas because it puts the ball in their court. After the United Kingdom, France, and Canada came out and recognized the so-called Palestinian state, they gave a huge reward for October 7th to Hamas, basically demonstrating to terrorists worldwide that if you are violent enough, you might actually get rewarded for it. But now with what Israel and with Netanyahu, with Trump just did, they actually undid all of that because I don't know how, but they somehow managed to get United States, Israel, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Indonesia, Turkey somehow, European countries, all on the side of Israel, agreeing to an agreement, to a ceasefire agreement, which now, if Hamas refuses, it gives Israel all the legitimacy to do whatever it needs to do in Gaza because all of these countries basically have signed off on it. Basically, this is, and also, I mean, this is the only type. This is a ceasefire that we could actually get behind because it requires Hamas. It gave Hamas 72 hours to agree to disarm, completely dismantle, and completely basically surrender to Israel, which is, and there's so many other conditions that I don't know Hamas would. It's basically if Hamas agrees to it, it's Hamas agreeing to the end of Hamas, which I don't see them agreeing to, because it's basically either they have to go out the easy way or the hard way. So, but if Hamas doesn't agree to this, then now we have all of these countries, including even Qatar and Turkey, signing off to agreeing to Israel basically respond to Hamas because now it's Hamas's. If Israel goes into Gaza and attacks Hamas after this, it was it's on Hamas because Hamas was given a chance that all of these countries agreed to. So this was a genius way to completely isolate Hamas away from its historical allies, including Europe, Qatar, and Turkey.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I pulled up the announcement itself, and I agree with everything you're saying. And if you go through the plan to
20
end the
points.
Gaza conflict, it's a 20-point
Yeah.
plan. It's incredibly comprehensive. But the really important part here is that this is, you know, at least on its face, it's supposed to end the conflict in the Middle East once and for all. Now, a lot of people are, focusing on Hamas, and they're focusing on Qatar and what some of those other states are doing, but there's not that much focus on Khamenei and the Islamic Republic right now. And
Right.
you know, I think I think that, well, for what it's worth, when I was watching the announcement, there was a um, brief mentions of Khamenei. But I think that this plan really is more to end the conflict, not necessarily just with Hamas, but with the Islamic
Yeah.
Republic itself. And that's why, in the plan, it doesn't really say, you know, end the conflict with Hamas. It says end the conflict in Gaza, because I think there's an implicit understanding that this is also going to impact the Islamic Republic. Now, I wrote this. I'm gonna read my analysis, and I'd love your thoughts on this, Armin, because this is going to get into the next part of what I just wanted to
Mm.
briefly touch upon, because I think the next 24 hours are going to be critical. So, one of the three non-negotiable pillars of the Islamic Republic, occupying Iran, is their jihad against Israel, right? This whole their desire to liberate Al-Aqsa based on some, fairy tale, and so this ideology has played a key role in fueling and funding the endless conflict between Islamic Republic and its proxies versus Israel. This has been going on since 1979. And without this, jihad against Israel, without this desire to go and claim Jerusalem, whatever nonsense, um, there is no purpose for the Islamic Republic itself to exist, because right. So when I look at this, I can't see Khamenei agreeing to to this at all. Like, I simply cannot see any reality or scenario where Khamenei will accept this um, peace agreement. So I think what Trump and Netanyahu actually did is they this is basically checkmate for the Islamic Republic, I think, because if they accept, they basically lose all legitimacy. One of the core
Yeah.
foundational pillars of the Islamic Republic is gone. If they don't accept, then during that same announcement, President Trump gave Prime Minister Netanyahu the green light to go ahead and do whatever it needs to do to end the conflict once and for all. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and Trump has recently uh, gotten closer to the side of neocons and away from isolationist part of MAGA, both when it comes to Israel, the Islamic Republic, but also Russia and Ukraine. You could see a huge shift in Trump's attitude regarding foreign policy, which is for us Iranians, this is actually very welcoming because it seems like not only United States is going to start giving a green light to Israel to do whatever it wants. In that speech, he actually says, "We won't just give you a green light; we will actually be supporting you 100%," which is a much more aggressive stance from Trump than before. But I just want to mention that how correct you are regarding people. I think people, a lot of people don't understand that without the so-called Palestinian cause and the axis of resistance, there is no Islamic Republic. A lot of people misunderstand and think that Islamic Republic is about Iran. It's about ruling Iran. The Islamic Republic is not about ruling Iran. The Islamic Republic is about spending Iran's resources for the sake of the axis of resistance. Iran is not something to govern over. Iran is something that you spend for another goal beyond Iran's borders. And that goal at the phase that they are right now is to so-called liberate um you know Quds, because it's a three-phase plan. Phase one was to basically get Iran, away from remove Pahlavi and get Iran, and then phase two is to get the Middle East by removing Israel, and phase three is to basically remove United States and basically uh, uh, conquering the whole planet, right?
Mhm.
So without the so-called Palestinian cause, they have nothing. Like that's the end of them. And many people don't understand how obsessed the Islamic Republic is with the so-called Palestinian cause, and their entire like legitimacy, their delusion over the legitimacy over the Islamic world is from the Palestinian cause, because they are Shia and the vast majority of the Muslim world is Sunni. To unite, to act like they're the leaders of the Islamic world, even though most of the Islamic world is Sunni, is by demonstrating that they are the ones, they are the force that stands against Israel for the sake of Palestinians, unlike any other Islamic government. So if you take this away from them, you have collapsed their empire. This is the end of them. This is the end of their entire ideology.
Do you see any possible way for the Islamic Republic to survive this? I know that, especially for us as
No.
Iranians, we've been saying, oh, this is it. This is the moment. The regime is going to collapse, or, and then every single time we've been disappointed because of something that's happened. But do you think that this is it? Is this the final checkmate for Khamenei and the Islamic Republic, or do you see some sort of possibility here where they can um, get out of this? Because I have not been able to find that possibility. I mean, it very well may exist. I just haven't been able to come up with a scenario yet where the Islamic Republic can survive this scenario.
Well, let me actually say the people who have been saying that the Islamic Republic is collapsing for the past 10 years, they have been correct. The only people who haven't been correct are the people who think that the collapse happens within 1 year or 2 years, because people don't understand how long these things take. Like the Islamic Republic has been in power less than 50 years, and that's nothing when it comes to the lifespan of a new government of a so if people say like, oh, you were wrong, the regime is in power still, I mean the whole revolution started only 8 years ago, and this is nothing. Like this is like when the only people who were wrong about this were people who thought that this is going to happen in a few months or in a few years. But I mean, obviously the Islamic Republic is going to collapse. I mean, everything seems to suggest that it's about to collapse. But when we say it's about to collapse, people think that we're talking months. No, like this might take years. But just because we want the Islamic Republic to be gone, really fast, because we see how much the Iranian people are suffering, you know, that's understandable why so many people are in such a hurry. But when it comes from an historical perspective, 4 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, these are small. This is nothing. These are small. This is very short amount of time. Like if the Islamic Republic falls even in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I will still consider that not that much time when it comes to the if you look at it from a if you zoom out and look at the entire life of the Islamic Republic. Like I mean, empires have been last empires and governments have been lasting 500 years, 600 years, that 1000 years. So 50 years is nothing. This is still the baby phase of the Islamic Republic. So if it falls in 10 years, it's still very early.
You're absolutely right, and it really is like the baby phase. It's like the blink of an eye when compared to the history of Iran itself, which goes back thousands
Yes.
and thousands and thousands of years, right? So,
Yeah.
just because the Islamic Republic has been in power right now, it doesn't mean that it's always been this way. In fact, you're right, this is very new. But there's also, another angle to all of this that a lot of people, well, especially non-Iranians, don't really focus on. And that's the angle when it comes to the official opposition. You have his Royal Highness King Reza Pahlavi, who has been working, his entire adult life to free Iran. And right now we're seeing massive consolidation massive movement, massive support for him. And there's been several events that have been taken place. A couple months ago, at the beginning of August, they released the emergency phase booklet, which spoke about the 100-day plan for after the fall of the Islamic Republic. The
Right.
king has spoken about how he is working to create a transitional government, and that transitional government is going to be ready to go. That's going to prevent the country from falling into chaos and any sort of civil war. Although I don't think there's going to be any civil war at all. I mean, people who think there's going to be civil war in Iran just don't understand Iranians and Iranian society. They probably assume, something like Iraq or Syria, where they have that tribalism, Arab mentality, and that just simply doesn't exist in Iran, I don't think. So, I mean, there might be like, terrorist factions doing whatever, but I don't think it's going to be like an
Mhm.
all out civil war type of thing. Um, and then, of course, you have the military defections, right? Something that he has been working on. And we know that there have been thousands of military defections so far, and that number is growing. But there's something that's really interesting, a tweet that his official comms team put out that you didn't even know about because it just came
No,
out a
it
couple of
just
hours
happened.
ago. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
want to add that, and I just want to read this for everyone. So this was communicated in Farsi, but let me pull this up here. So I translated it. So his official communications channel posted out 3 hours ago. We inform our esteemed compatriots that tomorrow, Thursday, coinciding with Mehregan, the Festival of Light and Brightness. So Mehregan is an Iranian festival. The website of the We Will Take Back Iran campaign will be unveiled with a message from Prince Reza Pahlavi. So the reason this is very significant for the benefit of our listeners is that tomorrow, okay, let me just get rid of this person here.
Oh, let them be. That's fine. They help with the engagement.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I can't tolerate like,
Okay.
swearing or whatever. So
All right.
I don't know. I don't have the patience for that. I mean, you might have it, but I don't. But um
Okay. Okay.
I know you can probably deal with them. Um, but the reason, what's really interesting about this is that when Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump came out with their announcement for peace in the Middle East 2 days ago, they basically gave Hamas a 72-hour deadline. So they gave them 3 days to agree or not. And that deadline also applies to the Islamic Republic, to Khamenei. So the deadline
Hmm.
is essentially tomorrow. Okay. So tomorrow will be the 72 hours. What's really
Wow.
interesting is that now all of a sudden you have King Reza Pahlavi, who is the leader of the Iranian opposition, official leader of the Iranian opposition, coming out and saying that they are going to launch the official website for, you know, what is being termed as the national uprising, basically the official website of the revolution to reclaim
Right.
Iran. That is going to be launched tomorrow. Do you think it's a coincidence that the deadline for Khamenei to respond is happening at the same time as this website is being launched?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, this is the day. This is a ancient Persian celebration, so that's how the day was picked. So I would be very surprised if Trump picked the deadline for Hamas based on an ancient Persian tradition. So I don't know if that's it might be a coincidence. I don't know. But I do think, though, that even if it is a coincidence, we have to somehow connect them together because Trump just came out in the speech that he has with Netanyahu. He mentioned that there's a peace council and he's the chair of it, and Tony Blair also gets a seat. But those are the only two people that were mentioned regarding having a seat on the peace council for the Middle East. So Trump being the chair, and the first chair handed out was given to Tony Blair. Apparently, he asked for it. So, and Trump mentioned that there are many other seats that will be given to different leaders around the world. And I don't know what we have to do to make sure one of these seats gets to Prince Reza Pahlavi, because I think we need to make that, like, I think we need to try and make that happen. He said that they're going to be deciding these seats within the next couple of days, and I think it would be a really big missed opportunity. I think the solution to peace in the Middle East is Prince Reza Pahlavi. So if there's a peace council and there's giving out seats to different world leaders, I think it's quite obvious that one of these seats has to go to Prince Reza Pahlavi. I don't know. Do you think there's anything we could
So
do about? Yeah.
so Princess Pahlavi has been speaking about peace in the Middle East for quite a long time. So actually, when
Right.
Trump and Netanyahu used the phrase "peace in the Middle East," um, that resonated with me because that's something we've heard before. Very similar to how Netanyahu in the UN said "Make Iran Great Again," which is something that King Reza Pahlavi has been saying constantly. I
Right.
think given the fact that Prime Minister Netanyahu is heavily involved in this as well, um, if I don't know if it's a good idea for King Reza Pahlavi himself to be
Mm.
on that council because it could very well be seen as as a potential conflict of interest, right?
Mm.
Because, as much as we hate to say it, the Islamic Republic occupying Iran is still, viewed by many nation states as, the legitimate government, even though we don't think it's legitimate. So I think if King Reza Pahlavi were to himself hold a seat on that council, I think um, that could be seen as a potential conflict of interest, especially by the Islamists and those who would be fighting, against him. However, I do think it would be very important to have an Iranian voice on that council, to have someone
Mm.
who is supportive of King Reza Pahlavi, um,
So, Said
is
Qasem.
yeah, I mean, I think he would be excellent. He would be excellent,
Mm.
or anyone else on who's worked with the king, who's part of it. They might want to maybe go one step further out, so to maybe have someone who is not directly affiliated or associated with the team, because again, that could be perceived as a potential conflict of interest by the Islamists, and even by like the communists and the woke left, right? So. Um, I would say it would be probably a good idea to have someone who whose values and whose goals align with that, but is not necessarily directly related to them. You want someone arm's length, I would say. But I think having an Iranian voice is critical, especially since the Islamic Republic has been using stolen money of the Iranian people to fund terrorism in the Middle East, right? So I think it would be important to have an Iranian there. And I think ultimately, Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to make sure that there are people there who are good people. Now, I think Hamas has not yet agreed to the deadline. One thing I find really interesting is that, they are pushing back. They want like to negotiate on this, but I
Mm.
have a feeling that this 72-hour countdown is going to be sort of just
It.
that's it. It is what it is. And we've seen this good cop, bad cop play between the United States um, and the Islamic Republic in the past, right? Especially with the 60-day negotiations between Israel
Yeah.
and the Islamic Republic. After the 60th day, all of a sudden Israel attacked, and then Trump
Yeah.
went right in with Fordo. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time because
No, no, that's
it's
great.
but I would love like your final thoughts on this as well. I mean, what do you think is going to happen within the next 24 hours?
So
It's a
I
loaded
I find
question.
it Yeah, I know it's really hard to predict the future. I just find it hard to believe that Hamas would be like, okay, fine, we will do, like it seems like they, yeah, this is it. Like you either agree with this or we will just rain, we'll just bring hell down upon you. And given that I can't imagine Hamas coming out and saying like, okay, we will voluntarily disarm and dismantle, and we will agree to your terms, and we will just have no, like, I just cannot, like, everything is possible. I just can't imagine that. So I'm assuming that this is not going to happen, and Israel will just go in and continue doing what it needs to do in Gaza, now with more legitimacy than before because they gave another offer to Hamas and it didn't accept it. Um, but I just hope that Israel gets to finish. And again, I know there are so many people in Israel that are, not so many people, but there are some people who are upset with Netanyahu because they want the war to end and they want some agreement with Hamas so that the hostages could come home. And I also understand the argument from the other side of people in Israel who say that if we let Hamas continue, we will have more October 7th, and we will have more, um, we will have more people taken hostage. Um, but from an Iranian perspective, I just hope that Israel. I mean, it makes sense for us to wish Israel um, all the best so that they could finish the sooner Israel manages to finish the job in Gaza, the more they will be able to focus on the Islamic Republic. And I know that the Israeli government, whoever is in power, whether it's Netanyahu, Naftali Bennett, or anyone else, I think Israelis might have some disagreements regarding the hostages or some other disagreements here and there. But when it comes to uh, removing the threat coming out of from Tehran, they seem to be mostly in agreement. So the sooner we could get over this phase of removing Hamas as a threat in Gaza, the sooner Israel will be able to focus more of its attention to removing the source of all of these threats, which is the Islamic Republic in Iran. And I also hope that much of this strategy of Israel continues to be focusing on the Iranian people, because Israel and the Iranian people cannot afford to allow to for the Islamic Republic to continue, and they both need each other. It's very important for the world to understand that the Iranian people cannot get rid of the Islamic Republic without Israel, and Israel cannot get rid of the Islamic Republic without the Iranian people. The Iranian people are unarmed, and Israel is very armed. However, Israel cannot have troops on the ground in Iran, and the Iranian people are inside Iran. So they both have something that the other side doesn't have, and they both the nation of Iran and the nation of Israel need to support each other, and Iranian people need to support Israel by defending Israel's actions everywhere they are, by showing up in protests and having the Israeli flag right next to the Iranian flag, and by being active on social media defending Israel's actions. And this is what the Iranian people can do, because Israelis are not doing very well right now on social media and traditional on social media. So the Iranian people, because they also are from the Middle East, they have a lot more legitimacy speaking as people from the Middle East, and they're much higher in number than Israelis. So that's where they could, when it comes to the narrative warfare, the Iranian people could actually help Israel by being present on social media and defending Israel. And Israel could actually defend the Iranian people by supporting Prince Reza Pahlavi. More Israelis recognize more, not just the government, but also Israeli people, average Israeli people, recognizing Reza Pahlavi, appreciating his role, appreciating his popularity among Iranian people, and supporting him on social media. That's how you could, as an Israeli, you could be supporting. And again, the piece. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, and
No, no,
this
no.
is
Take
my
your time. Take your time. This is so
yeah, yeah.
important.
So it's this is the key to peace in the Middle East, is the unity between Iranian people and Israeli people, because these are the two groups of people who are fighting on the side of life. We are basically, these are the two nations that are surrounded by a cult of death, trying to find a way to fight for life. And that's because they're aligned with that, because because they share the same enemy, and because they're fighting for the same thing, they need to work with each other. Everything that we want to happen in the Middle East depends on how much the people of Iran and the people of Israel work with each other.
I 100% agree with everything you're saying. I think that mutual support is so important. Um, ultimately, no one wants war, but the one thing that I think both of our people understand, both of our nations, is that this isn't a war between Iran and Israel. This is a war between the Islamic Republic and Western civilization that starts with Israel. It's a war that the Islamic Republic itself started in 1979 when it took over Iran and took our country hostage with this Islamic
Yeah.
jihadi ideology. So, to anyone who says this is like, Israel started this, whatever, it's total nonsense. Especially us as Iranians, we know where this conflict began and who started it. It is the Islamic Republic. It is their Islamofascist ideology, and they have been holding Iranians hostage. They have been using us as human shields. They have been using our country as an ATM. Iranian people are, living in abject poverty in the country. They are starving. There's no water, there's no electricity, and yet the Islamic Republic is sending billions of dollars to fund, Hamas terrorists in Gaza and elsewhere. And one thing you said about supporting Israel, I think is so important. I did notice that there was a lot of support for Israel by the Iranian community, not just outside of
Yes.
Iran, but inside of Iran during the 12-day conflict. But that was mostly in Farsi. So a lot of these posts, a lot of these, tweets, whether it was on X or Instagram or wherever, they were going viral. But it was all in Farsi, so it was, basically among Iranians. And Iranians were doing a very good job of also calling out those who were criticizing Israel, because Iranians, vast majority, understand that this conflict was started because of Khamenei, and any life lost is directly the fault of Khamenei and the Islamic Republic. So Iranians were well aware of that. What we did notice is a lot of the non-Iranian um, people outside of the country, and these are the same like, pro-Hamas people, right? They were the ones who were going on the streets holding signs of Khamenei and saying, we stand with Iran. And as an Iranian, I found that to be so incredibly offensive, because that would be like the equivalent of someone going out holding a photo of Hitler and saying, "We stand with Germany," right? I mean, Hitler does not equal Germany. Nazi Germany was an occupation that was holding Germany hostage, the same way that the Islamic Republic is holding Iran hostage right now. So, when I saw that, it was a combination of, these um, I don't know, non-Iranians. They were like, I don't know, like they were Palestinian, they were like Arab, Lebanese, Pakistani, Iraqi, whatever, right? And then of course the woke left. Um, and they were actually joined by the Islamic regime supporters as well, and also the far left, right? Like the anti-Semitic far
Yep.
left communist people. So there were like Iranians there as well, but they're the ones that aren't supportive of us anyway. Um, if anything, that made me, you know, whatever support I had for the Palestinians at that point, um, or whatever's happening, like when I saw those people go out there and hold signs of Khamenei, at that point, I was like, I'm done. Like, I have zero sympathy for you people. If you're going to go out there and hold a poster of the equivalent of, what I consider to be Hitler, someone who has
Right.
the blood of millions of Iranians on his hands, you go out and you hold his photo and you say, you stand with Iran. You don't stand with Iran. You stand with Islamofascism. You stand with terrorism. And,
Yeah.
it made me realize these are the same people. They never supported us 3 years ago. 3 years ago, when Mahsa Amini was murdered by the Islamic Republic just for not wearing her mandatory hijab properly, these people weren't around. In fact, they were attacking us back then, and that had nothing to do with Israel at the time. So for them
Yeah.
now to just constantly support our oppressors, it showed me everything. But the silver lining here is that during the 12-day conflict, you did not see Iranians go out and demonstrate against Israel. Instead, what you saw were solidarity rallies. You saw Iranians and Israelis getting together in various communities, of course, with the lion and sun flag of Iran, which is the real flag. And, we were advocating for peace and we were reaching out to each other. And I think that showed a lot about who we are as Iranians and who we are as Jews and as Israelis. And going back to the importance of not just the Israeli government, but Israelis themselves supporting Reza Pahlavi, so critical. I mean, just look at what I have on the screen here. His team was recently in Israel meeting with top level Israeli politicians and speaking about how Iranians and Israelis can come together. Sorry, Iranians and Israelis can come together um, and work together after the fall of the Islamic Republic in order to rebuild that relationship between the countries. So, um, I think that unity is really, really important.
Yep, yeah, true.
Yeah.
And also, by the
Well,
way, thank you for bringing this to my attention. Not this one, but the Reza Pahlavi's recent tweet post to my attention, because I think I'm gonna do a stream on it on my Persian YouTube channel. Now that you showed me that, so thank you for that.
you should.
Yeah.
I think it's critical. I'm really excited to find out what the website is going to be, because now it seems like the revolution is going to have its own website, which I
Yeah.
think is fantastic, right? It's like we are literally like living through the revolution right now as we speak, and
Yes.
thanks to technology, we are able to connect, right? I think, and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I really do think like technology is going to be the downfall of the Islamic Republic, because one
Yes.
of the reasons they're so weak right now is they can't rely on their 1984 Orwellian tactics anymore.
True.
Yeah.
That's a good
Anyways,
note.
thank you so much. Yeah, but thank you for joining
Yeah.
me last minute. Appreciate that. And yeah, no, thank you for your help. So, guys, I'm going to be doing more live streams. Thanks to Armin. He helped kind of get me
Yes.
set up and everything. Yeah, and make sure you all follow him. Um, I will add I'll retweet it,
Okay.
I'll put his handle in there, but make sure you're following him both on YouTube and on X. If you're on YouTube, he has like a fantastic stream there, live chat. So yeah, make sure you do that. I mean, thanks for everything,
Yeah.
and we'll have to have you back on soon.
Yeah. If you want to find me on YouTube, just search for Atheist Republic on YouTube. That's how you find me on YouTube. And thank you.
Thank
This is great. I'm glad that you're live streaming now more often. This is what
thank you.
we
Yeah,
needed.
I
This. So thank you. Yeah.
appreciate that. So, I mean, I got to get set up and more professional, so it's not just like this random rug behind me, but we'll get it up and
That's a
running.
beautiful rug. That's a beautiful Persian. How dare you? That's a beautiful Persian rug. So
I'll let my dad know. Thank you so much. All right, take care. Bye, everyone, and thank you for joining.
bye.